WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and Freetown and 7 p.m. in Porto Novo. Good evening and thank you for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. First, our top stories. Amnesty International calls for fair trial of persons arrested during October 25, 2025 presidential election. AU Special Envoy for Mali and Sahel meets with regional leaders to reconcile ECOWAS and AES blocs. Guinean Foreign Minister Kouyaté briefs diplomats on the dissolution of 40 political parties.
This sovereign decision falls exclusively within the normal exercise of the authority of the state.
And former Jungler member Manjang in the Gambia faces new 6 charges, including murder. So stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
On the news, this is a more edit.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. We'll begin in Côte d'Ivoire, where Amnesty International has expressed concern over what it describes as the prolonged detention of several people arrested during the October 2025 protests. In a statement released on Tuesday, the human rights organization said some of those detained may not have even taken part in the demonstrations and criticized what it called unfair trials in certain cases. More details in this report by Christopher Aticho.
According to Amnesty International, 5 months after the arrests, several people remain in detention amid political tensions surrounding last year's elections. The organization says some detainees were tried without legal representation, while others are still awaiting trial. Amnesty also raised concern about 3 pregnant women currently held at the Abidjan Penitentiary Center. 2 of them have been sentenced to 3 years in prison on charges including public disorder, participating in a banned protest, and unlawful gathering. The group says one of the women, a trader, was arrested while selling fruit juice near a protest, while the other was detained for wearing a t-shirt in color of the opposition party. Both have appealed their convictions. A third woman, who is 7 months pregnant, remains in pre-trial detention. Relatives say she was arrested at her home after witnessing protesters fleeing from security forces. Amnesty International is calling on the Ivorian authorities to guarantee fair trials, ensure access to lawyers and families, and provide proper medical care for detainees.
Christopher Aticho filed the report. In Sierra Leone, President Julius Maada today met with African Union Special Representative for Mali and the Sahel. Mamadou Tangara's tour is part of ongoing diplomatic efforts to maintain dialogue between ECOWAS and the Confederation of Sahel States, AES. Augustin Coley tells us more in this report.
During the meeting in Freetown, President Bio, current chair of the ECOWAS authorities of heads of states and government, reaffirmed his commitment to constructive dialogue on security issues in the Sahel. The talks are part of a broader diplomatic tour by Tangara aimed at strengthening cooperation between the African Union and ECOWAS. Before his stopover in Sierra Leone, Mamadou Tangara was in Abuja last week, where he met with the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Ali Touré. As in Freetown, discussions centered mainly on peace building, conflict prevention, and addressing the humanitarian crisis in the Sahel. The tour by the African Union Special Representative therefore comes amid shifting regional relations following the withdrawal of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from ECOWAS. The trio would create the Confederation of Sahel States in 2025, which has outlined several priorities, including the fight against terrorism, management of natural resources, and economic integration. For regional observers, discussions among relevant stakeholders, including officials from ECOWAS and the AES bloc, should continue despite the political split to preserve cooperation amid rising security threats across West Africa.
Augustin Coley reporting there. In Guinea, the government has spoken for the first time following the dissolution of 40 political parties. Addressing diplomats accredited to the country, Foreign Affairs Minister Maurice Kouyaté said the decision is fully and sovereignly assumed by the government. According to him, the measure is aimed at responding to public demands to clean up and reorganize Guinea's political landscape. Francis Boniface has the rest of the story.
The dissolution of 40 political parties in Guinea, including the three main opposition groups, has raised concern among diplomats accredited to the country. In response, Foreign Affairs Minister Morisanda Kouyaté held a meeting with ambassadors to explain the government's decision.
The Ministry of Territorial Administration and Decentralization, following a transparent, objective and rigorous evaluation process, has dissolved 40 political parties that failed to meet the requirements set out in national legislation. This is an impersonal decision strictly based on respect for our laws and regulations. It also responds to the expectations expressed by our citizens during the broad public consultations held across the country as part of the process of drafting the Constitution of the Fifth Republic.
Some diplomats said they fear the move could threaten multi-party democracy in Guinea. However, the foreign minister insists the decision is sovereign and fully assumed by the authorities.
We do not want you to rely on information circulating on social media. When the state makes a decision, it is our duty to inform you. As accredited partners in Guinea, it is important for you to know this. This sovereign decision falls exclusively within the normal exercise of the authority of the state.
Before the meeting, several political parties had called on foreign diplomats to speak out on the issue.
General Alpha Ibrahim Abadi's report there, presented by Francis Boniface.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
We head now to Nigeria, where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has assured citizens that the country will not allow agents of instability to undermine its peace, unity and sovereignty. The president gave the assurance while hosting religious and traditional leaders at the State House. The head of state during the meeting emphasized the role that community leaders play in promoting harmony and moral guidance at the grassroots level. From Abuja, WDL's News has a report.
The president gave the assurance while hosting religious and traditional leaders at an interfaith breaking of the fast at the presidential villa in Abuja. He said despite ongoing security challenges, the government remains determined to defeat threat to national stability and protect the country's territorial integrity.
The terrorists, they are very desperate now because they are getting barraged and defeated. They leave trails of blood in their fields. But I assure you one thing, Nigeria will never surrender.
Shifting focus to the economy, the president said the difficult decisions taken by his administration are beginning to yield results, noting that Nigeria has overcome some of the economic challenges it faced when the government assumed office. He stated that the nation's economic outlook is gradually improving, adding that state governments are now in a better financial position than before.
No governor in this country, in any of your states, is now running around the bank to borrow money to pay salary of their workers.
President Tinubu reaffirmed his commitment to investing in critical sectors such as agriculture and education to leave a lasting legacy for future generations. For WADR, Hiechenis Asitu in Abuja.
Liberia has filed a formal protest with the International Maritime Organization IMO following an Iranian drone strike on the Liberian flag vessel Arabia 3 in Saudi Arabian waters. The attack, which occurred on March 7, 2026, resulted in a fire on board and left one crew member seriously injured. Ambassador Robert Wilmot Pade, Liberia's permanent representative to the IMO, addressed the subcommittee on March 9, 2026 at the IMO headquarters in the United Kingdom. Pade condemned attacks on vessels that are simply exercising their freedom of navigation as guaranteed under the IMO laws and other international instruments.
Liberia would like to bring to the subcommittee's attention an incident involving our flag vessel, Arabia 3, with IMO registered number 8771332. The vessel was sadly struck by a drone on March 7, 2026, which resulted in a fire and explosion on board while operating in the Saudi Arabian waters. Tier 1 personnel member was reported badly injured on board the vessel. All 86 personnel have been safely evacuated from the vessel. We also confirmed that the fire was extinguished and the drilling was secured before evacuating personnel. The assessment of the damage to the vessel is ongoing. We extend our thanks and appreciation to those who have assisted in the sad incident, especially in the evacuation of personnel. In this regard, Chair, Liberia strongly condemns attacks on vessels simply exercise the freedom of navigation guaranteed under international law.
Ambassador Robert Wilmot Pade is Liberia's permanent representative to the IMO. And now to judicial matters. The trial over the deadly Air Algeria plane crash on July 24, 2014 in the Malian desert has commenced in Paris. The plane, which departed from Ouagadougou, the Burkinabe capital, crashed shortly after takeoff, killing all 116 persons on board. Nearly 12 years after the tragedy, the trial aims to determine responsibility for the crash. The Spanish airline Swift Air, which owned the aircraft, is being tried for involuntary manslaughter. Usman Umar reports.
Nearly 12 years after the tragedy, a trial has opened in Paris over the crash of Air Alger flight AH5017, which went down in northern Mali on July 24, 2014. The aircraft, traveling from Ouagadougou to Algiers, crashed with 116 people on board, including 54 French nationals, 23 Burkinabe passengers, several Lebanese and Algerians, and 6 Spanish crew members. All were killed. The Spanish airline, Swift Air, which owned the aircraft and had leased it to Air Alger along with its crew, is now on trial for involuntary manslaughter. Investigators say the crash occurred after the anti-icing system was not activated while the aircraft was flying through a storm zone. Ice crystals reportedly formed in pressure sensors, causing the engines to slow down automatically until the plane stalled. Investigating judges say several failures by the airline, including insufficient crew training, may have contributed to the accident by preventing the pilots from responding appropriately. However, Swift Air argues the crash resulted from a combination of external factors, including gaps in the flight manual and technical issues related to the aircraft design and warning systems. The trial, which opened on Monday, is expected to last 4 weeks.
Usman Umar voiced the report as filed in by WDL's Martin Kaba in Ouagadougou. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM in Dakar. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Amnesty International calls for fair trial of persons arrested during October 25 presidential election in Côte d'Ivoire. AU Special Envoy for Mali and Sahel meets with regional leaders to reconcile ECOWAS and AES blocs. Guinean Foreign Minister Kouyaté braves diplomats on dissolution of 40 political parties. And still ahead in the news, a former Jungler member, Majang, in the Gambia, faces new 6 charges, including murder. We do have a guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget you can listen to us live on wadr.org and follow live streamings on YouTube and Facebook. The Gambian state has filed an amended bill of indictment against Sana Manjang, expanding charges against the former alleged member of the Junglers at the National Intelligence Agency or NIA to 6 counts. The charges relate to a series of alleged extrajudicial killings, conspiracy and torture dating back to 2006. The case is now before Justice CDK Jabati, with the State Law Office outlining allegations of murder, conspiracy and assault during Manjang's tenure at the agency. WDL's Banjo correspondent Sagdan Amendi reports.
According to the prosecution, Sana Manjang is facing 6 charges, including 2 counts of murder under the criminal code. He is accused of killing Kajali Jammeh, also known as Lekok, by slitting his throat and fatally stabbing Samba Wure in the chest in Kanilai in 2006. The indictment also includes 2 counts of conspiracy and 2 counts of assault causing actual bodily harm. The prosecutors allege that Manjang conspired with others at the National Intelligence Agency premises in March 2006 to assault Tamsir Jassi and military officer Yaya MS Dabo. Both men are expected to testify in court about the alleged torture following the 2006 coup attempt led by Ndu Cham. In total, 8 witnesses are expected to testify, including Ensa Keita, who claims to have witnessed the alleged attacks. Additional testimony is anticipated from Badu Jana, former driver to Colonel Cham, and Lamin Fadera, a prison officer stationed at Mile 2 prison at the time. Investigators, including Jali MJ Senghor, police officer S.I. Sow, and crime scene investigator Mustafa Jame, are expected to provide evidence on the investigation process, the accused responses, and findings from the alleged detention premises in Kanilai. Manjang now faces 6 charges ranging from murder to conspiracy and assault as proceedings continue before the High Court. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdana Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Meanwhile, the government of the Gambia has announced the establishment of a special court dedicated to handling sexual and gender-based violence cases. The initiative, through the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, is the first of its kind in the country. Gender Minister Fatu Kinte made the announcement reaffirming the Barrow government's commitment to a zero-tolerance policy on sexual and gender-based violence. Let's join Sakul Janko for the report.
Speaking on the occasion of International Women's Day 2026 on the year theme Rights, Justice, Action for All Women and Girls, Minister of Gender, Children and Social Welfare Fatu Kinte reiterated the government's commitment to protecting the dignity of women and girls through the creation of the specialized gender-based violence courts.
I'm pleased to inform you that the Gambia is on the verge of inaugurating the Special Court for Sexual and Gender-Based Violence, the first of its kind in the Gambia. The establishment of the SGBV Court demonstrates government's unwavering commitment to addressing sexual and gender-based violence through specialized, efficient, and survivor-centered procedures.
Sexual and gender-based violence remains a significant human rights and public health issue in the Gambia. According to the Demographic and Health Survey 2019-20, 46% of women aged 15 to 49 experience of physical violence since age 15. Applauding the initiative, women's rights activist and president of the Pan-African Female Youth Leaders, Elizabeth Kinta Gomez, emphasizes that addressing the problems related to sexual and gender-based violence goes beyond the creation of SGBV codes.
We often look at the part of victims and survivors just getting justice. But after the justice, what comes next? Some of them are traumatized. And how best do we create safe spaces to ensure that these people live in a safe environment? Mentally, they have a lot of work to do. They need psychosocial support. They need to reintegrate back in society. This is a big gap that we always have in our advocacy and in ensuring that there is justice for women and girls.
When established, the special court has the potential of revolutionizing the delivery of justice for survivors by ensuring faster trials, reducing case backlog, discouraging withdrawals, and preventing future acts of violence.
Sakle Janko reporting there. In the meantime, the Ghanaian government has announced a new measure to tighten border control and reduce smuggling, thereby protecting government revenue. According to the Minister of Finance, Dr. Castiel Atto-Forson, the Ghana Revenue Authority has been directed to ban the transit of rice, sugar and cooking oil by land. The measure takes immediate effect. From Accra, Nadiditite reports.
The directive follows a meeting between the Finance Minister and the Acting Commissioner of Customs, Aaron Akano, along with management of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to review developments at the country's borders. Under the new measures, a number of widely traded commodities including rice, sugar, cooking oil, frozen food products, flour, textiles, canned tomatoes, pasta, and certain pharmaceutical products will no longer be allowed to enter or transit through Ghana via land borders. Authorities say these goods must now be routed exclusively through Ghana's seaports. Officials believe the move will strengthen monitoring of import and transit trade, close loopholes that allow revenue leakages, and enhance customs oversight over goods moving through the country. The directive could also affect cross-border trade flows within the West African sub-region, where land transportation remains a major route for the movement of food items, consumer goods and pharmaceuticals. In addition, the Finance Minister has ordered the re-centralization of the Customs Technical Service Services Bureau, a move aimed at creating a one-stop center for valuation while improving intelligence sharing within the Customs Division. The new system will also draw on insights generated through the Publican Artificial Intelligence platform to strengthen customs operations. The minister has directed all relevant departments and units within the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to ensure strict compliance with the new measures as the government intensify efforts to safeguard public revenue. For WEDR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview segment takes us back to the Gambia, where a specialized court will soon be set up to try cases of sexual and gender-based violence. In the Gambia, SGBV remains a significant human rights and public health issue. According to the Demographics and Health Survey 2019-2020, 46% of women aged 15 to 49 experience physical violence since age 15. President of the Female Lawyers Association of the Gambia, Anna Njai, reacts.
Yes, we have been consulted in the setting up of the court. The main consultations, I believe, is with the main stakeholders, which is the judiciary and the ministry. We are just an ancillary stakeholder in the process, but we have been consulted. The setting up of the court is a government decision, and we are just an NGO trying to ensure that gender-based violent cases are treated with expediency. And I believe that's the reason why they decided that there should be a special court. Just like you have a children's court or employment court, they found it necessary to have a specialized court because of the rapid increase in the number of SGBV cases. So it's a positive initiative, and coming up to set it up, obviously it will go through the proper procedure. Because as a judiciary, the Chief Justice has powers to establish certain courts within the jurisdiction. So the setting up will definitely come from proper mandate to set it up.
How do current courts handle gender or sexual-based violence cases in the Gambia? What are the main challenges survivors face? And do you think a dedicated court realistically would speed up justice and reduce frustration of victims?
Well, I can just speak from experience in terms of how cases are being handled. Obviously, as a country, not just SGBV cases, but general cases, forensic is still an issue. I believe probably when they have the forensic lab, which they are building, it will solve some of the issues that victims do face. But the delays in the court system, I guess so many cases in the court system, less magistrates and judges. So that is something that affects cases. Obviously, there has been prosecution of SGBV cases over the years, and sometimes victims do feel stigmatized in the process. Victims feel stigmatized. Some cases they go through the normal process. We're still using longhand. Judges have to write, magistrates have to write. So these are all delays. There are so many different factors that can cause delays, but having a special court dedicated for SGBV cases, I believe it would at least close that gap, if not 100%, but probably it will reduce the backlog of SGBV cases.
All right. In your experience, what key features should this court have to be effective? I know you did mention some of the challenges that the country is facing when it comes to cases of gender-based violence or sexual and gender-based violence. But what do you think are the key aspects that are needed to curb these challenges?
Well, I guess features that will protect the victim, because whilst the court is supposed to do justice, they shouldn't take sides, but also the protection of victims during the whole process. And I believe steps are being taken by the government and the judiciary to ensure that before the court is set up, all these things are put in place like you have in other countries.
Anand Jai is the president of the Female Association of Lawyers in the Gambia. And in sport news, concern is growing for the 18 Senegalese supporters sentenced in Morocco following incident during the final of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. They are serving prison terms ranging from 3 months to 1 year, along with fines. The case has taken a new turn. The Moroccan Public Prosecutor's Office and the Civil Party have appealed the first instance judgment. A new hearing is scheduled for March 16. The defense has denounced the proceedings as irregular, claiming that the legal deadline for appeal had expired. The situation is causing confusion and reigniting fears that the sentences could be increased. At the same time, the Senegalese authorities are continuing their diplomatic efforts. A royal pardon has been requested from King Mohammed VI, while Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko is in talks with his counterpart Aziz Akanouche to discuss the repatriations of the prisoners. Elsewhere, former Super Eagles coach Adegboye Onigbinde has died at the age of 88. His family announced his passing on Monday in a statement signed by relative Bolade Adesui. The message described Onigbinde as the first indigenous Nigerian to coach the national team, as well as a respected traditional chief from Modakeke. The family praised his contributions to Nigerian football and said details of the funeral arrangement will be announced later. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Maudoju for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms: TikTok, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WDR English. I am Imo Edet. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.
Let's go. This is your radio.